Hi, Bother Brigade. Here's what's bothering me today. I could very easily talk about more crap going on with the protests and events happening in Ottawa, and of course down in Windsor. That's the other big story right now. But there's a different story that is very much seemingly lost in the noise, and I want to talk about it. Because what's happening over in Afghanistan right now is a crime against humanity, and America isn't really making it easier to deal with. So for all the talk of, freedom and all this stuff here in Canada, I understand very much why people's focus is on that. But I also want to make people aware that literally on the other side of the planet, another injustice is happening. Not that we can really do much about it, but it just really shows that Biden is not some real progressive guy. It's very much on brand for America to just steal other nations' money. They did it with Haiti. They've done it before with other countries. This is kind of what America does. They freeze assets from a place that kicked their ass, and then they seize those assets. And unfortunately, that's what's happening in Afghanistan right now, while a massive humanitarian crisis is unfolding. Nearly 1 million children are starving, and yet, unfortunately, what's happening is the following. Spurning demand by the Taliban, Biden moves to split $7 billion in frozen Afghan funds. The president intends to use the Afghan central bank's assets to fund needs in Afghanistan amid a humanitarian disaster and compensate victims of the September 11th, 2001 attacks. The link will be provided down below, and yes, about half of this money, they are saying allegedly, is being set aside to go to help the starving and struggling Afghan people right now, because basically what happened is, in the wake of Afghanistan pulling out, right, what the crumbling government in Kabul did was they just sent all their assets to a securities holding department in New York, big chief financial center of the world, right? And so when the Taliban took over, they said, hey, so as the new official government of Afghanistan, whether you like it or not, that is our money. And America said, we don't recognize that. And also, we don't really deal with terrorists or people who shelter terrorists. So the funds were basically being held and no one could open them. And so instead, what's been happening is Biden and his team have said, you know what, we're going to open it to send some funds to Afghanistan, but specifically they have to be used to address the humanitarian crisis. Because unfortunately, what happened in the wake of Afghanistan, right? Because all that money was shipped out, it meant that there wasn't enough security or stability for economic investment in Afghanistan, what little there was in the first place. And so this led to an immediate economic crash, as well as, I'm pretty sure, inflation. It also meant that now your average Afghan is really struggling to find work and food. And so, unfortunately, nearly 1 million people are starving. And so the, niceness of the Biden administration is that they're sending half of that money back. So just to really be clear here, this is like someone stealing all the money in your bank account and then only giving half of it back because they felt like being generous. And so unfortunately, right? And I know there's probably some people thinking, oh, so what? The 9/11 families shouldn't get compensation. That's not what I'm saying here at all. Those people were definitely negatively impacted by those days' events, as well as the, hundreds, if not thousands of, police officers and firemen who were responding to that day, and they had complicated health problems years down the line, and their own government in America refused to help them out. So these people are kind of acting almost out of desperation of, hey, at least get something from all this, right? Even though, again, it's not like Afghans were the people actually attacking Americans on 9/11. It was predominantly Saudis. And that's a subject for a whole different time. But what's happening right now, and the core problem, is that before Afghanistan fell to the Taliban, a lot of the money was sent to New York to be held eventually, for who? Who really knows? Who can say? And so now it's being opened up and decided by the Biden administration about who gets what and where it goes. I have a feeling that 9/11 families are not going to see $3.5 billion. Let's be real here. After all, this is the same government apparatus that refused to compensate them in the first goddamn place. So a little focus in terms of who the bad guys are and what the issues actually are and who did not, actually provide service and support to the people that, some people may be trying to throw out there of, oh, come on, we got to support the veterans and the people who were impacted by 9/11. Bigger picture here. And the bigger picture right now is that Afghanistan has lost a bunch of its money because it was sent there by a crumbling government. And now the people that they supposedly represented are starving to spite the Taliban, which, yeah, I kind of get that, right? No one actually really likes the Taliban all that much outside of Afghanistan, right? However, the core issue is that there are upwards of 1 million people who are starving through no fault of their own. And it is happening purely because of the actions of America over like the 20 years and also the former Afghan government. These people who are suffering did nothing wrong, or at the very least, the vast majority of them did nothing wrong. They are merely a victim of consequences of larger forces outside of their control. And there is an opportunity to actually meaningfully address this and fix this. But unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen because most of us aren't talking about it. And some of the people who are talking about it deliberately want to be punitive to the Afghan people for a variety of reasons, most of them really terrible, racist, and illegitimate. And all those things are what's bothering me today.